for anyone to claim whether or not that as humans we were actually in fact born and evolved from human apes, whatever they were called back then, however many years ago, which, might I add, is nothing more than a load of baloney, because the earth was created 6,000 years ago. Now, if you were to add another 2,000, actually, I take that back. The earth was created 6,000 years ago. Now, if you were to deduct, say, 2,000 years from the 6, that would ultimately leave us with 4,000 years. So, theoretically speaking, the Earth was actually in fact 4,000 years old. But if you were to add the 2,000 years on top of that, upon the arrival of the Son of Man, i.e. Jesus Christ, then you're more or less on the right path with your mathematics. I want to break something down to those of you that are still to this day caught up within this man-made kind of science, which I call baloney. I can assure any of you watching this video now that the human being was not, and I repeat, not actually created from an ape, like many people claim us to be. Now, go back 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when the very presence of Jesus Christ was actually born within the stables of Bethlehem. He was brought into the world as a new canvas, right? In other words, he wasn't consciously developed nor consciously aware until he reached, say, childhood, teenhood, and then adulthood, which I believe was estimated to be approximately 33 years. Now, think of the cycle this way. The human being is technically born again within the spirit, i.e. they're childlike, they enjoy doing childish things, you know, they love rebelling against their fathers and their mothers on occasions. In other words, they haven't yet spiritually nor psychologically grown nor developed into the men and the women that they were designed and created to be biblically, witnessed and approved by the Holy Spirit. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, let's say this said soul of a person is trying desperately to do away with childish things, grow out of said childish ways of living and thinking, so that he or she can become the men and the women that the gospel created them to be. Once again, both spiritually and psychologically. And within time, his divine time, a soul can actually in fact be given the chance to age gracefully and die within peace, whether it be physically or the spirit even leaving the body upon death. And I just want to wrap this whole baloney kind of cult movement up, you know, that people are following. You're being duped. You're being brainwashed into believing false information. Now, I guess if you were to take, say, a second from God's linear, well, I say linear, God's spiritual timeline, right? You take a second from that timeline. That second is the equivalent to 1 hour, right? Now let's say you take an hour from his divine timeline. That is the equivalent to 1 whole day. Oh, it gets more it gets more kind of thought-provoking than that. Now, let's say you were to take the hour. No, my bad. That day from the timeline, his divine timeline, right? That would be the equivalent to 1,000 years. Now, if you were to do the math, that would have taken God approximately 6 days to create the heavens and the earth, right? Therefore, how in God's name can anyone try to convince me that the earth was actually in fact created billions of years ago, trillions of years ago, when the dinosaurs evolved and the monkeys evolved into other animals and all of this? It is man-made, and I repeat for the last and final time, it is nothing more than man-made, obscured science. Maths included, if you wanted to, if you were to add that on top of it, i.e. working out roughly how old the earth is exactly. And this is why we were given spiritual discernment, to discern truthful information from fictional information. And that is all that this cult movement offers people, fictional information. You were given a conscience along with common sense, knowledge, wisdom and logic to discern right from wrong, truth from lie, fact from fiction, were you not? Of course you were. Therefore, isn't it time that people started using their conscience along with spiritual tools to discern what is truth and what is man-made? And I'll give you another example as to why I believe that this movement is nothing more than a cult movement offering false information. Somebody give me a biblical passage. Anyone. I don't care who you are. I don't even care about your background. Give me one specific biblical passage that evidently proves that we evolved from apes, or better yet, any other form of animal breed. 1,000,000 years ago, or however many billions of years ago, or better yet, trillions of years ago. Because I can guarantee any of you watching this video now, you can't. Therefore, you are stooped. In other words, you don't have a leg to stand on when intellectually challenging me with your man-made nonsense. And this is why I'm hated a lot of the time. Because I'm actually, in fact, getting inside of people's heads with the truth. They don't even realise it, mate. So once again, for the last and final time, to those of you following this man-made dogma, you have to can it immediately. Because it's trapping and enslaving the very souls of man and woman into living like overgrown babies. Or should one say babies within overgrown ass bodies. And it's only going to get much worse for people before it gets any better. And why is that? Because people choose to unacknowledge someone that happens to be a spiritually awakened to the real truth, the red pill truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be on occasions. And we so happen to be aware to just how much dogma and complete and utter horseshite is out there being taught to people day in, day out. And this is why I don't go on the voice of man or the voice of woman, because a lot of the time you rebel against your own fathers, your own mothers, whether they be biologically created or non-biologically created, i.e. case in point myself being the father. You go about your own ways in life, thinking that your life is your life, And you have to keep on learning the hard way, the uncomfortable way, the bitter way, just like I did and still do to this day, as part of the growth and evolvement chain. Which brings me back to the speech, I guess you can call it, in regards to the evolution chain. We weren't actually, in fact, created from monkeys. Rather, we were created spiritually at baby birth, i.e., we would automatically carry the light at childbirth, because in God's eyes, despite any sinful background we may have been brought into, we were still technically considered sweet and innocent. And a lot of Calvinists are probably going to bash me for sharing this video, and I will bash you with the sound intellectual truth that I hold on to, and trust me, you will not have a leg to stand on once I'm done with you. So don't even try wasting your time. Go back to when Jesus was born, people. Yes, he was brought into a world, a darkened world at best, right? But because he was intellectually underdeveloped, and he was not consciously aware to who he was, nor his surroundings and his calling, that would not make him a sinner. He would automatically be deemed as sweet and innocent within the eyes of the Lord. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where I'm able to, agree to some extent. Go to, say, the human species, on the other hand, right? They're brought within the same environment. They're born and created at childbirth as innocent beings, automatically carrying the light, right? And then let's say they were brought into this god-awful, sinful world. They reach an age of accountability and responsibility for their own actions, i.e., they reach an age where they begin to practice sin, and within time they develop a license from the devil to commit continuously that sin, or any other sin for that matter, which would automatically even sway them away from God, because they are living like reprobates, they are living like degenerates, they are not living within the truth. And within time, like I said, a soul can actually, in fact, age like a fine wine, as well as grow and evolve. And the reason why so many people are caught up within today's society, living like either kindergartens, infants, or overgrown ass babies within adult bodies here, is because they would rather hold on to their false illusions that are currently being shattered as we speak, than accept what the Bible actually teaches. And I will share the scripture within, the video link here for people to see for themselves that souls can actually, in fact, age like a fine wine and grow gracefully. In other words, you go from living like an infant, you go from living like a child to living like a teen, an adolescent, and then an adult, right? That's exactly what the chain of evolution is. It's mostly a heart transformation and renewal of the mind from spiritual birth to then growth and evolvement into the men and the women that we were designed and created to be biblically. And that is the God's honest truth. Once again, people have free will to believe whatever they want, right? But you don't have free will from the punishments nor consequences you inflict upon yourselves by choosing to ignore the voice of truth, the voice of reason, by choosing to live within your lies and your deceptions. I believe I may have lost trail of thought there. I may have actually stumbled my words. I don't know. I'll have to replay the video once I'm done with it. But yeah, that currently wraps that up. The idea of man-made evolution. There's no such thing as a man or a woman being created from an ape. That's bullshit. I don't care what anyone tries to come at me with. I will come at you with the sound, intellectual truth, and I will also even come at you with spiritual discernment, and I will tear, as well as dissect, your false ideologies apart as though they meant nothing, with the double-edged sword of the spirit. And each and every one of you that try to come at me with this nonsense are the ones going to be left rage quitting. Did you honestly think that I wasn't like the rest of you out there, living within these illusions, these delusions? Of course I was. Because approximately 3, give or take maybe 4.5 years at best, ago, I would have considered myself a spiritually born Christian. I.e., a baby, again. You know, in here, that is. And within that time, despite any battles and struggles and only God knows what I face on a day-to-day basis, I grew and evolved into the man that I'm becoming now. I'd be lying if I said, you know, that more work wasn't required, because it is, trust me. It is for everyone, you know. But man, I'm telling you, you people need to stop leaning upon your own understanding and start listening to this voice of truth for once in your life. And if you don't even have it within you to listen to the voice of truth and the voice of reason, don't bother coming back within my circle. I don't even bother try crawling back, crying, begging and pleading for my help and support when I've tried telling you time and time again that you reap what you sow. Because I have tried warning people day in, day out that believing your false ideologies, man-made religions, oxymorons, false indoctrinations, and only God knows what else, is only going to do more spiritual and psychological damage upon the human race than it is good. Because it is keeping people trapped and enslaved in living like children, teens, adolescents, and then adults, i.e. wrinkles to prove it and all. And there we have it, folks. So I'm sure there are some people out there willing to listen to this, and if you are, then congratulations. You'll know that I'm speaking the truth. And you will know that you too have the chance in order to grow and evolve and age like a fine wine. And trust me, it's not going to be comfortable for many, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. It involves taking the narrow path in life, where you give up fun, you give up pleasure, you give up childish things, like I said, to fill that void which we all currently have, right? Once again, talking from past experience and sometimes present. We all do these things in order to fill the void that we carry. But then if we take a step back from it and reflect on whatever it is that we've said and done to fill that void, we begin to realise that, if anything, all that we are left in now is, technically speaking, grief, along with depression, and only God knows what else. And why do you think that is, people? Because you have grieved the Holy Spirit by living like a degenerate, by living like a reprobate. Once again, talking from past experience and sometimes present. And I believe it's in these times, people can actually, in fact, find out who they really are by growing and evolving from it. But you're not going to grow and evolve from it by repeating the same cycle and living within the past. And this is why so many people have failed at life miserably, because they're living within the past and they don't even realise it. What's said and done is said and done within the past. You've got to let it go in order to live the life that God promised you, biblically that is. And you know you're on the right path, like I said, when your path is narrow. And not many people walk on this narrow path because, like I said, people give up at the last and final minute when it gets too challenging and too tough. Just goes to show, really, that they're not cut from the same cloth I am. And that they're as weak as piss. They are fickle. You know, they laugh and joke about it amongst themselves, you know, thinking they're winning. But they're really not. They're really not winning. And sooner or later, wrath is going to approach them and provoke them into making the right choices, the right decisions in regards to living life correctly. Via the biblical manuscript, its 10 commandments, judgments and statutes. Not via their own warped imaginations, illusions, ideologies, oxymorons, man-made religions, indoctrinations, and only God knows what else. And this is why, you know, a lot of the time our life is painful. It's due to the fact that we are indeed on the narrow path. We no longer click with the youths of today. Sure, they can crack us a smile and pay us a compliment, do whatever, right? But we just genuinely do not have it within us to click with the youths of today. And it's the same with the modern world, the modern day world. We don't have it within us to click with the modern day world. Because within our hearts and our mind, we are of a completely new and intelligent design. We're not of this world. We're not of any of the false beliefs, oxymorons, ideologies, man-made religions, indoctrinations, if I've not already said that. We're not of any of these things. Rather, we are of the heavenly kingdom that was created 6,000 years ago. But once again, deduct the 2,000 from that, 4,000 years ago, upon the arrival of Jesus Christ, being, you know, within those 2,000 years, that is. And there we have it, folks. So, once again, stop leaning upon your own understanding. You're going to get nowhere, trust me. Do as you will with this video at the end of the day, because I really, honestly, and truly could not care less whether you thanked me for it, loved me for it, or hated me for it. I really and truly don't care. Because at the end of the day, I know the truth. And the truth doesn't reside within the vast majority of you people today. Because you're so caught up within your own delusions, your own illusions, that you honestly think there's truth to all of it. When, I hate to break it to you, you're going to experience an illusion-shattering experience when you begin to realise that all of these characteristics that you've placed upon yourselves are nothing more than of the devil and his worldly kingdom. We weren't created biblically to wear false images and false gods. Rather, we were created biblically to live in truth, to live holy, to live pure. And this is why I don't follow man-made religious cults either, thus including man-made Christians and their, you know, poisoning, you know, their poison that they spout. I.e., you know, babies being deemed sinners automatically because they were brought into a world, a darkened world, from their parents' choices and decisions. They're automatically abused there and then from the Calvinists and their teachings that they're deemed sinners, or because they were brought into a world, a sinful world, a fallen world, from choices of their own parents. That's not how God sees that child. I'm telling each and every one of you now. The child, like I said, before I wrap this video up, because it is quite a long one, the child is deemed sweet and innocent in God's eyes. At baby birth, that is, until they reach an age where they begin to master the art of sinning and living like a degenerate, a reprobate, to then develop a license from the devil himself in order to live this fictional life that they've created upon themselves, which, might I add, is also temporary and short-lived once the truth comes out. And it will, within time. Here's divine timing. And there we have it, folks. You live and you learn.